Three, two, one, and here we are. Hello, everyone. This is Mo from Educast International, and I'd like to thank all of you for being with us here today in our final webinar of our Ramadan event, Elevate Your Teaching Practice. This event is hosted by Educast International, which is, I'm really proud to be the founder of Educast International. And of course, this event is sponsored by Delta Bookstore, Syntax Solutions in the Netherlands, Text Inspector, and Fluent Ties. So today, and as usual, we have a wonderful guest with us today. But before introducing today's guest, let me everyone introduce Dr. Ron Ryan, who is joining us from Germany. Hello, Dr. Ron. How are you doing?
Hello, everybody who's in the audience today. A big hello from Germany.
Hi, Ron.
Oh, and of course, we are joined by Mark from the Netherlands, from Syntax Solutions. Hello, Mark. How are you doing?
Hi, Mo. I'm doing fine, thanks. And a big hello to everybody from Amsterdam here in the Netherlands. I am, of course, Mark Myatt from Syntax Solutions, your teaching CPD specialist based right here in the Netherlands. We would like to give our guest a very warm welcome as well to our audience this evening. Thank you for joining. Please do take a look at our website where you can find useful teaching resources as well as information regarding online teacher training workshops. The link is in the chat. Keep your eyes on the site because we have some free lesson plans written by Dr. Ron Marine coming your way shortly. And also for to have a look at who we are and what we do. So Mo, I'm turning it back to you now. Could you please take it from here?
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for all of this. And of course, I'm really glad to be, joined by you and Dr. Van Rijn here. Because of course you're a part of this. And again, everyone, today we have a wonderful guest who is Asma Sabri, who has been in this field for about 15 years, and she's the educational consultant at our partners and sponsors, Delta Bookstore. So Asma will be talking about teaching writing, the what's, the whys, and how's. Hello, Asma. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm great, alhamdulillah, and I'm thrilled that I'm going to start my presentation now. So let's shoot.
Yeah, great.
So this is my agenda for the presentation today. I'm going to cover these points. First, I'm going to talk about purpose of writing, and then reasons for poor writing skills. And then I will have some scenarios for some problems that we encounter in teaching writing in classes, and then some solutions or some suggested solutions. And then we're going to actually look at writing styles and approaches. And then the last part is going to be about common errors in writing, inshallah. So let's begin. So we have this wonderful saying by the American novelist William Faulkner. And I really like that saying so much because it's so much relevant, and it's the core of teaching writing. And as it says, read everything, trash, classics, good and bad, and see how they do it. Just like a carpenter who works as an apprentice and studies the master. Read, you will absorb it, then write. If it's good, you will find out. If it's not, throw it out of the window. So in the chat box, I'd like to hear some of your opinions about what the writer is suggesting here in teaching writing. What's the first thing he started with? Read. Why? I'm looking at the chat box. I'm waiting for some replies. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can all hear
Okay.
you. We're just waiting for the people here to type something in the chat box.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this saying is suggesting, yes, a good reader is a good writer. Thank you so much, Radwa. If you don't mind, tell me in the chat box where you're watching from. That would be actually a pleasure to know where your location is. Read a lot to have a role model. Excellent, excellent. What else? Yes. Yes, what else? So as you see, reading is an important step in teaching writing. This is what we call the input for the output. Reading before writing, great. Reader today, leader tomorrow. Yes, welcome, Radwa. Okay. Okay, so this is what William Faulkner suggests, is that you have to do some reading before writing. Okay. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so we have some purpose for writing. Why do we write? Yeah, okay, great. Okay, why do we write? We write for fun. Yes, exactly. This is one important, yes, exactly. Writing for academic purposes. What else? To express, yes, exactly. This is what we call vent. Okay, what else? Tutorial, where are you from? Are you Italian or something? Yes, express our feelings. Okay, communication. Great. I was waiting for that one. Okay. Thank you, Mohammed, or Mahmoud, I'm sorry. And thank you, Radwa. Okay, what else? Okay, so let's see purposes for writing. So we write to communicate, as you said. Okay, we also write to relay. Yeah, okay, exactly. Or to yes, exactly, to inform, to entertain. And sometimes we write to persuade somebody with an idea or a concept or a belief. And this is a very common type of writing, which is called persuasive writing. We'll come to that later today, inshallah. And we also have the kind of writing which we call evaluate. I guess most of you have seen book reviews or film reviews, and this is a kind of writing, to write reviews. Okay, and also we write to entertain ourselves, as somebody here in the chat said, write for fun. Okay. As long as we've seen these types of writing, what could cause poor writing? What could cause poor writing? And I think most of you have encountered problems in teaching writing classes, and the everlasting complaints that writing is not that much crucial. Poor grammar, yes. Punctuation. Okay, well, to be more specific, punctuation is not a cause for poor writing, it's actually a symptom. Since there are some weaknesses, okay, yeah. Yes, okay. So I'm gonna show you some of the common problems, or I mean, common causes for poor writing that we all have seen in classes. Excellent. Mitchfield Lear, where are you from? I hope I'm reading your name correctly, but what you said is totally correct. Lack of grammar knowledge and lexical structure and all that stuff, okay? So the most important point is lack of motivation. And I've heard it from a lot of teachers that students actually are not motivated to write. They don't want to, they don't have the feeling, or maybe they can. German, you pronounce my name, yeah, because I speak German. Okay, so lack of motivation, they don't have any desire to write, okay, and we'll have some solutions for encountering lack of motivation in class. Also, no exposure to reading texts. Sometimes you don't have good input. Like as we said at the very beginning, you don't have good input like reading or maybe listening videos to help students actually form some ideas to help them write, okay? Also, lack of free writing. As we said before, that sometimes we write for entertainment. Sometimes teachers are actually getting into class with the idea that we have to just write on some specific topics and all the students should write on the same thing. But actually, it's more liberating when you have some writing sessions and teach some writing about 3 topics. whatever topics students would like to write about. And that would give them more freedom to make mistakes and learn from these mistakes. Also, lack of resources. If you don't have enough material, maybe you don't have a library at school, enough books, maybe you don't have internet connections to help students do some research work before writing. But again, somehow you could handle this by providing your students with material that can help them or aid them in writing later. Also, inadequate vocabulary, grammar, structure, spelling. Whenever you don't give the proper input again, which is in the form of vocabulary they need for writing on a specific topic, or maybe certain grammar structure, maybe you want them to write about something technical, so you need teaching passive, for instance. Maybe you don't teach some problematic areas in spelling. These all lead to poor writing pieces, okay? Also, you don't have inadequate time for writing activities. For instance, the writing has some process or phases, like brainstorming, having your draft, maybe proofreading, then editing, rewriting. Sometimes teachers are in a rush to have the final piece in class, so they skip some of the steps which are very, very educating to have them in class. So inadequate time for writing is one of the reasons why we have poor assignments or poor pieces. Lack of good feedback. Okay, sometimes teachers themselves aren't aware how to give a good feedback for students, or they don't know themselves how to teach writing. So the feedback actually is not the thing that is helpful to guide students how to write something or how to correct their mistakes and so on. And this leads us to the second point, which is unproductive teaching methods. If you are not well aware how to teach a writing lesson, you're not going to have a good writing piece of your students. Teaching writing is challenging and it's really enjoyable. If you learn how to present writing or how to work on writing in your class, that will actually provide a good, let's say, launching pad for students to start writing. So these 2 points, lack of feedback and unproductive teaching methods, are so much connected with the teacher himself. If the teacher himself or herself aren't aware of how to handle the writing skill, that would lead to poor writing skills. Also, overcrowded classrooms. If you have plenty of students in your class, like maybe 30 or 25 students, that will be so difficult to handle individual problems. Of course, you're not going to address each individual problem, but at least each student is entitled to the teacher's attention, especially if they struggle with writing. So we'll come out with some solution also for this problem. And this one is my favorite, which is student social background. Somehow the social background thing is very, let's say, influential when it comes to writing. You will find some students who are so cultured, they have a lot of information about things because they are exposed to more life, more culture, more things because of their parents. So the background some kind affects the students' knowledge, and which by turn affects how a student would be able to write about something, because they don't have the background, they don't have the information, they don't have anything to put on a piece of paper, or maybe write on a PC if they are writing on a PC. So we're gonna have a small activity, and I hope everyone the chat box will work with me. Now, these are 4 scenarios, as we see, and they are about the problems that we discussed a few minutes ago about causes for poor writing skills. Now, I have these 4 scenarios. My students are never motivated to write most of the time. How can I motivate them, and how do I keep it up along the year? And then the second scenario is, imagine that your schedule is tight and I do not have enough time for writing activities like proofreading, editing, or rewriting. How do I organize my time to tackle all writing related activities, knowing that it's essential in developing the writing skill? And another scenario here is when my students start writing, they always say, we don't know what to write about. We don't have enough vocabulary, which tends to be used. How can I increase their word bank and provide good grammatical structure to help them write well? And the last one is about overcrowded classes. I have 25 students in my class. How can I manage this big number of students if I have a writing session? Now, I'll give you like 3 minutes. Think, how would you handle these problems? And I'm sure you have already seen this before. So come up with solutions. So I'll give you 3 minutes in the chat box. Write down what you could do. Yeah, one solution is to let them write about the most thing they like. Yeah, okay. But not all the sessions you'll be able to do that. But this is one thing to handle, okay? What else? Topics a student can relate to, personalized topics. Yes, exactly. Yes. I guess you're so much in agreement with Radwa because you're talking about the same thing. But this is actually so much important to have some personalized topic, but sometimes you need to have one topic so that the whole class will write about, because not all the sessions you can have personalized topics. Otherwise, you're not going to have a metric to know exactly how your students do in writing. So what else? Think. What would you do with the second problem? If your schedule is tight, play a short story and let them retell on their way. Okay. Good rubrics, templates, excellent templates. This is my favorite thing. Thus, self-assessment and peer assessment can be done. Excellent. Excellent. Breaking down tests. Well, wow, I can see wonderful answers here. Breaking writing tests into manageable chunks. Excellent. Overwhelming, especially for learners who are new to the language. Break down writing tests into smaller. Perfect. Thank you so much, Rabat and Abdul. Where are you from, Rabat? Where are you watching, writing, or listening? Yes, more manageable. Oh yeah, Mansoura. Okay, great. Good models and some scaffolding. Wonderful. Okay, so let's move to some suggested solutions, and what you answered actually, your answers are part of what I actually prepared here. Okay. So for lack of motivation, you could choose high interest topics. For instance, you're teaching a mixed class, they are girls and boys, and then one day it comes to your mind that you're going to teach some writing on fashion. Boys could not be that much into fashion, but you can make use of that by making it more personalized, by asking boys to write about men's fashion or men's wear, and girls will write about women's wear, and then we can compare the features they have if they have something in common. So you can still play or customize the topics, but the more they are of high interest to the students, the more you could help them find something to write about. Also, make sure the writing test is appropriate to students' level. Imagine that you're teaching about global warming and your students are still in grade 3, primary 3. That would be actually a bit difficult. Otherwise, you will provide them with all possible means to help them write, like good listening material, maybe reading. But I prefer in that instance, you would play some videos and provide them with proper vocabulary, okay, to help them write about that, because that would be a little bit above their level, okay. Offer engaging writing prompts. As I said, when you actually give some prompts, especially phrases, and I've always said that in my trainings, that whenever you teach writing, it's okay, totally okay, to memorize or give students some chance to memorize. It's not wrong it's not that I just memorize and I don't understand what I'm doing. No, it's really okay to memorize phrases or small chunks, especially if you're writing something that's not common, like a cover letter, for instance. You're teaching students in college, for instance, how to write a cover letter or how to write a recommendation letter. So you need them to learn how to form some phrases or write some chunks in a specific way. So it's okay to memorize them. You can, as I said, videos, doing some reading text, providing pictures. These are all what we call prompts to instigate students into writing. Okay. Yes. I'm going to stop here at that part a little bit. When I say model an example, and this is one of the approaches of teaching writing, to model an example. As somebody here said that you can do small chunks or have the session or cut the session into small chunks. So you can show a model and then tell the students the process. And then in another point I'm going to talk about in this slide, we'll actually talk more about modeling, but in use another word, and I'm sure most of you know about it. This is what I was talking about, mentor text. Use a mentor text, and mentor text could be general or generic text, or you could have a book specifying for the task of providing you with mentor text for specific genres you want to write about. For instance, you teach writing, for instance, descriptive writing or maybe narrative writing. You should actually have some text or mentor texts to teach students how to have the process of writing a descriptive piece of writing or a narrative one. So the mentor text could be a specific book or could be just normal text you prepare for students as a model. We'll come to that later in another slide, inshallah. So you could actually help students to assess their own work, or maybe peer correction, as somebody said here, I think our friend from Mansoura. You could have something called correction or descriptors. I think most of you know IELTS exams or maybe the TOEFL exams. They provide descriptors for learners so that they know how examiners are going to correct their exams. So you could do something similar to your students in class. Of course, it's not going to work with young learners, but maybe you can start having that starting grade 4, maybe 3, depending on the code that you're going to provide them with. I will show you a picture of some codes, and they are universal. They aren't of my own invention, but you could actually teach them in your classes to help your students save time correcting their own mistakes, or maybe students can correct each other's work. But be aware, I mean, be careful, because sometimes some students will not be able to correct their peers' pieces. Otherwise, they will disappoint them because they will stop at every single mistake, and that would actually turn them off. One of the things that would help your students learn to write is to rewrite after you correct the writing. So when they rewrite, they look at their older pieces, they look at the mistakes, and they avoid them. So you would have better pieces for future times. And that would actually help you reduce the time you would spend in class, especially if you have overcrowded classes. You could help them, you could actually, make them rewrite their pieces at home and then bring it back to the class as homework, okay? Also, you could have a writing contest, and that would help motivate your students, because sometimes some students would be a bit competitive. They don't actually like to just sit and have just piece of writing and they hand it to the teacher and that's it. They would like it. They would ask actually for having a writing contest in the school, and let's see which class would have the best writing piece and so on. Okay. Also, publishing students' written pieces is another thing or another solution for lack of motivation. Speaking about classes with big number of students, somebody said that you can divide the class into small groups. Yes, manageable groups, and this is very helpful as long as you know how you're going to divide the class, because sometimes you have fast finishers and you have some slow achievers. So you can either divide the class according to their levels. Maybe you can have it in a way that your students, the good ones are in one group, and then the slow achievers are in one group, but you manage them your own. So dividing the class into manageable groups is very, very important, and at the same time, carefully, otherwise it's going to be a messy class. Okay, now again, for lack of motivation, your schedule is not enough or not helping you that much to write. You can have a habit of writing. Like for instance, you can have the first 15 minutes or let's say 20 minutes in your session or something to talk about writing, or maybe to have one phase of writing along the whole week. Or maybe if you don't want to do that, at least have 2 sessions for writing per week. Because when I ask teachers, how many sessions do you have for writing? They would tell me we have 1 session each 2 weeks. And that's not enough to develop writing. And as we know, writing is an accumulative skill. It takes time to develop. So we can't have 1 session for 2 weeks. It has to be like 2 sessions per week, okay? Right, we can say that we can divide the class or the session, into many sections. Like for instance, you have a beginning, and that would be for the brainstorming or for the writing or for the modeling, for whatsoever, and then you check that student's writing. And then you'll have the middle part of the session, which is another part for producing or developing the writing, and then you stop and check the writing, and then you'll go to the end part, which is the conclusion of your writing, and then you check. But again, this depends on the approach you're having for teaching writing, and we'll come to that later, and you'll make much sense when you see the approaches for writing, and you'll know that this is one step that can help you in minimizing the time and organizing the time in class, especially if you have many students in class. Okay, so another way for helping you with writing and minimizing time is using graphic organizers. Have you ever used graphic organizers in writing? Because I can see some stuff here. Writing workbook and work. Great. Resources for teachers. Okay. Have you ever tried using graphic organizers for writing? Yeah, kind of like Kind Maps. Yes, Mind Maps. I'm sorry. They are like organizing the steps of writing. Yeah, they are very helpful for teachers and for students, both. Yeah, because you organize your mind. So it's not only for stories, as some teachers think of. When you have a story, you need to have a graphic organizer, like choosing the characters, the plot, the theme, and so on. No, we have graphic organizers. Yes, exactly, for writing. They are very helpful, and they make students it makes clear for them to know exactly what to have in the introduction, what to have in the body of the writing, and then what to have in the conclusion. Okay, sometimes students would actually write endlessly, but you need to have a word count on board to limit wasting time, because sometimes students are so much thrilled and they like the topic. So your request is only 150 words. You would find them writing like 250 words, maybe 300, and they just keep writing on and on and on. You need to have a word count on board so that they learn how to control the writing process. It's not just left unless you have a free writing session. And again, it could be a little bit free in terms of topics and in terms of word count and all the writing related elements. But again, setting word count will be actually very helpful for you and for students. For you to minimize the time for correcting, for them to control writing. This is, as I told before, a correction code, and this is a universal thing. It's not my invention. You teach them these things. You can also print it and have it on board, or maybe you can have it in classrooms for them to look at what they're writing, so that they can check if at any given moment you write them, for instance, WF, and that would mean wrong form. If, for instance, you write them SP, that would mean there's something here with the spelling. And I like that much. I like that one a lot, which is something is missing. You use
I think, yeah, you're back.
I
Great.
got disconnected. Yeah, I'm back. I'm sorry. Okay. So where did I stop actually? What was the last slide you saw? Let me open it again. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see the screen too. Yeah,
Yeah, so
that's right. Yeah, you just have to, you know,
I asked where.
yeah, maximize it. Because we can see
Okay,
the
so
slides on
was
the
that the
left,
last
you know.
slide? Yeah, okay. Here.
Yeah.
Was this the last slide you saw? Or correction code? Well, okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you, Lear. Danke. Okay. So I was speaking about this thing, and I said it's a universal correction code. It's not of my own invention, so you can have it. You can search online and then just write correction codes. You will find a lot of these things, and you can print them, hang them on the wall in class, or maybe print them and put them in their students' writing notebooks. That would be very, very helpful. And they would use it to correct each other's if they are able to, or maybe you can use them to help them know exactly that they have a problem here, but you should not say, and they will find out themselves. They will have to go back to check if you write, for instance, T, yeah, that means a wrong tense. SP, a wrong spelling, and so on. Let's go to the following slide. This is another thing about graphic organizers, as you see. This is one graphic organizer for personal narrative, and this is for persuasive writing, and it has to have specific sections in the body. Like, for instance, in the introduction, you should have your topic sentence, and it should be indicating that you will have to talk about your opinion, and then you will have to give your reasons, and then why, or evidence that supports your reasons, reason 2 and reason 3, and then in the last one, you should actually put your counter opinion, or the other opinion that you're not that you're against, and then at the end you restate your topic sentence and close it, or finalize your writing. So graphic organizers, you could also have them online, but they are different because it depends on the genre you're teaching. Okay. Okay, now mentor text that I said that we will come to discuss later, because it's also an important point. So we need to know what are mentor texts, why do we use them, and how to use them. Mentor texts, as I said, they are either model texts or maybe books, and they are designed for giving reading texts for teachers to teach writing. They should be understandable, I mean, the student's level, and they should be relevant to what you want to do. If you're teaching descriptive piece of writing, so you have to bring a mentor text that is descriptive. If you're teaching persuasive writing, you should bring a persuasive essay or persuasive piece of writing or article whatsoever. So it has to be relevant to the core or the scope or the thing that you're going to cover in your writing session. Why do we use them? It's very, very insightful because students learn from the author's craft, how they craft the writing, especially if you want to teach writing stories, things about describing, using adjectives that has to do with the senses, emotions, and so on. Thank you, Mariam. They also teach students how words are used. Sometimes the students know the words, but they don't know how to use it, where to put them, or maybe they don't use the appropriate words. And they also learn from the mentor text how the text is structured, how to develop an idea, how to use transitional phrases, how to connect these phrases together, okay? So mentor texts are really, really important for teaching writing. Okay, let's come to the how. How do we handle or how do we tackle using mentor texts in a writing session? So you will have to teach what you want to teach directly. So today I'm teaching narrative. So for narratives, I need to teach metaphors, similes, personifications, some features that would help students write some narrative things because they will describe some emotions and feelings and so on. So they will learn how to use metaphors, how to make them, and similes. Okay, so this is direct, very blunt. You will just go straight forward and say, today we're going to have some writing and it's going to be on narratives. And then bring the mentor text and make them read the text either individually or out loud. And it also depends on their age. If so, the young learners, not that young learners, but I mean like grade 3 or 4, maybe 5, you still need to have some help. But maybe grade 5, maybe grade 6, 7, 8, and so on, they can handle reading personally or in silence. So they can figure out the text that they are handling or working on. Okay, so after they read the text, you need to ask some engaging students. Why? Because the questions that you will have on the text or the discussion, it will have some analysis. It's not going to be only an analysis of the topic. It will be an analysis of the writing techniques. Like you can ask the student questions on some stories, for instance. How did the writer say that he was sad? How did the writer say, or how did you understand that the writer is going to make some decisions, or he's confused about so and so? These emotions or these questions would actually make them look through lines and find out the structures that would make them believe that the author or the writer developed the writing in a specific way. So this is very, very important. So you would ask students to write something similar to the text, and we call that phase emulation. And emulation is like imitation. You're asking them to copy, not copycat, not like 100%, but at least they should follow like 70% of the text, the format, the structure, maybe the tense. Maybe they could use some of the phrases used in the text as long as it's the same genre. And then the last phase is to compare. They should have a feedback. You compare the writing to the mentor. And you could do it as a class feedback, like you give them the feedback yourself, or maybe you can have it like peer feedback. They can switch the writings. And then again, be cautious because some students will not be able to give that feedback and they will be disappointed or maybe turned off. So be careful when you assign students who would give the feedback to their peers. Okay. Okay, now let's move to the types of writing. As long as we said descriptive, narrative, and all that stuff. Can you tell me in the writing, the chat box, how many types of writings or the most common ones? Sorry. I think we mentioned two in the previous moments, types of writing. I'm waiting. Everybody knows? Okay. Well, we have many types of writings, but the most common ones, or let's say that the bigger ones under which you could have yes, descriptive. Now, thank you so much. You summed it all. Yeah. We have the expository or informative writing, and sometimes they say explanatory writing, in other words, and it's very, very important. Why? Because most of what actually students learn to write about is the informative writing. Especially, it's important for textbooks. You can find them in textbooks, you can find them in journals, yes. You can find them in technical writing, like for instance, catalogs, or maybe an article describing how, okay. So you can have them in technical writing, like something that describes how a machine works, how maybe it's not about machines only. It could be something about computers, it could be about technology and all this stuff. Okay, 5 genres, but mine are 4 only. Okay. We have also the persuasive or opinion writing. And this is my favorite because in that type of writing, you persuade the readers towards something. So your opinion here is so clear. In the informative writing, your opinion should not be included. You do not actually say what you believe in when you write an informative piece. But in opinion writing, the author's viewpoint is clear. You can find them using, for instance, pronouns, personal pronouns, okay? And we find them in opinion or editorial pieces. If you've ever read some magazines or newspaper and so on, you will find the chat is done, I'm sorry, because I need to see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, so you will find the opinion or editorial pieces in magazines or newspaper, especially in the first page. Also the reviews, because it's so subjective. And cover letters, again, this is when you are trying to persuade somebody to believe in you, to accept you as an employee or to hire you. We also have the descriptive writing, okay, and it's more about pictures and describing things, and they use the senses, the 5 senses in this type of writing. Again, it's found in journal writing, as somebody said here, it's Radwa, run, okay. And also about memory or experiences. Also, poetry is part of the descriptive writing. And also we have the last kind of writing, and it's the narrative. And this is, sometimes you might confuse narrative with descriptive, but there is some slight difference. The narrative thing is a whole thing. Like you have a story, a beginning, middle part, and then you have an ending. The descriptive thing could be a small incident. It could be just describing a passing by incident. But if you say narrative writing, you're telling a story. You're really telling a story, and you can find them in anecdotes, biographies, autobiographies. Okay. So these are the most common types of writing. So now, yes, creative writing would be a type. Well, I believe creative writing could be a feature, not a type of writing, because you could have a creative, informative piece of writing or a creative, persuasive piece of writing. But I have seen lately, thank you for coming up with this question. I've seen lately because of, I've been reading a lot about writing, and it's actually one of my most important interest topics, that there is a branch called creative writing. So that's a bit modern. Okay. Thank you so much. I don't know your name. How can you Okay. So we have some elements when we write. So my question to you, when we start writing, or when you yourself, Ahmed, okay, thank you so much. So when you think of writing, what are the first thing that comes to your mind? Now, you yourself, you want to write a post on Facebook or maybe LinkedIn, or maybe you have a blog and you write something. So what comes to your mind when you start writing? There are some elements that you should think of. Thank you so much, audience. Ron, you read my slides. Yeah, what else? So this is one. You have to think of the audience you're writing to. What else? Medium of delivery. Thank you so much. I have it in another name here, but it's so similar. Medium of delivery. What else? Okay. What about you, Ahmad, Radwa? What about the others? Improvise. Whatever comes to your mind, write in the chat box. Style. Okay. Vocabulary choice. Okay, vocabulary choice could go under another title, but I'm just speaking about 4 important elements, or the, let's say, the big ones, the umbrella. How to arrange my ideas. Again, this comes in the steps, but before arranging ideas, before writing for kids, Harry Potter, Age of Onion. Yes. Okay, my favorite movie ever. Okay, so when we write, we have to think of these 4 things: why, who, what, and how. Why are we writing? Whom are we writing to? What way are we going to handle this? And how? The language we're going to use, or how can we express what we want to write about? And this can go in other words, like purpose. Why are we writing? Thank you so much, Ahmed. Writing for purpose. Well, actually, here I'm going to say what the purpose of my writing. So now I'm going to sit down and write some post or prepare some writing for some academic purposes, or I'm teaching my students that they will write. So before they start writing, they have to think of 4 elements. The purpose of their writing. Are they writing for the school principal? Are they writing for me? Or are they publishing their writing in the school magazine or sending it somewhere to be published? So they have to think of their audience. And then who? The purpose of writing, not the audience. Why I'm writing. And then the audience. Who's gonna read my writing? So again, the purpose of my writing, is it to persuade somebody with an idea? Am I writing to introduce a topic for new students at school? Maybe I'm explaining something about school activities, maybe school forum, anything. So this is the purpose of writing. And then I said the audience is who's going to read what I'm going to write about. And then what, and that goes in other words as genre or style, as somebody said. Am I going to use the descriptive writing or the informative? And the narrative, it depends on why I'm writing. So this one, genre, is so much connected to my purpose because it will dictate how I'm going to put my writing. And then how, as Ron said here, the medium of delivery, I can have it in other words as register, and that refers to the language I'm going to use. Am I using formal language or informal language? Again, it's so much connected to the audience. If you're writing some email to your professor, it will be totally different from writing an email to your friend. So again, teachers teach these things when they teach email writings. They teach them that remember that you're writing this for specific audience, so you have to mind the language used. And this is the big part of the session, which is the writing approaches. Okay. Do you know about writing approaches? I think this is the last, not the last part, it's before the last part of my session today, the writing approaches. So, do you have any idea what are writing approaches? I'm looking at the chat box. Framework. What do you mean by framework? Elaborate. Okay. Okay. So what about the others? How did you teach writing in school? Mind mapping, okay. Graphic facilitation. It could be part of a big title, but we actually use graphic organizers in writing. Productive. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay. Okay, it's not productive, it's more into product. Brainstorming is modeling. Thank you so much. Is part of the product. Okay, so now I'm going to reveal the approaches. Now we have 3 approaches for teaching writing. Either it's called process approach, and they sometimes call it strategy. And I think most of you know it. It's the brainstorming, drafting, and all that stuff. And then the product approach, which is my favorite. This is when you model, as Ron said. And then the genre approach, and this is more into having a specific genre and teaching the features of that genre in a specific way. And it has kind of more specific steps to do. So let's see them. Let's see the strategy. Okay, the process or the strategy approach, which is very common. This is when you brainstorm ideas. And then after that, sometimes teachers skip that phase, which is identifying useful language. This is the input section. You would say, how would I put the input after the brainstorming? Yes. For instance, you're teaching a topic on living abroad or studying abroad. You would have that graphic organizer or not graphic, like the web on board. Okay, and then you would take all the information coming from students. Whatever they say, you put on the board. And then after that, you will decide on one part to talk about, because you're not going to talk about all the things you put on board, because otherwise you're going to write like 1,000 words. So after you choose a specific part of the ideas you had on board, you will have to input some vocabulary to help them write. Okay, so this is an important part or step in the strategy or the process approach. And then you will plan the writing after you brainstorm and then identify or input some useful language, vocabulary, or structure they need for writing. And then you will use the graphic organizer according to the genre you're teaching. After that, it's the phase of producing a draft. And then after you produce the draft, you will go through the editing process. You could do it in class. You could do it as a homework phase if the session wasn't enough to cover the whole steps. And then the evaluation section, which is the feedback on content, the content they gave, and then the language they used. The language here, grammar and vocabulary. They will have the edited part, and they will have to revise again and then publish. So this is one of the most common approach in teaching writing. My favorite is the product approach because it gives a lot of time. You use a model, and it's most of the time it's a reading text. After the reading text, it could be a listening audio as well. And you could have an activity after that listening or after the reading. How would you have an activity? You will have a gist activity. And if I say gist activity, it means some questions or some general questions on the text. They are not asking about details. They're asking about general ideas. And it's important, again, for checking their understanding of the purpose of that writing. Okay? And then you will have to do the same step, which is the input of useful language, vocabulary, grammar, layout, punctuation. For instance, if you're teaching a letter, you could provide a letter, and then you would do some gist activity, and then you will teach the layout, that you will have some greeting section, and then you'll have a comma, and then the body, and then the sign off, and then the signature, and all that stuff. And then you will have the graphic organizer, okay? And then produce the writing piece, and then give the feedback. In that phase, you might not much need the number 7 step here in the strategy approach, because they already have a model. So somehow the writing will be kind of similar to the model that they saw. And then the genre approach is a bit, I believe, for maybe higher elementary students or middle school students, maybe secondary school students as well. And it also works for college students. So you can set the context. What do I mean by setting the context? You discuss a topic, as I said in the mentor text. You discuss. And then after you discuss, you will study the features of the text that you provided in class. And then comes the next phase, which is the joint construction. What do I mean by joint construction? You will have to do the writing together, you and the students together. And this is what we call group writing. Why? Because it could be difficult a little bit for students to produce it. So you can do the group writing or whole class writing. So you can divide the class into groups. So each group is writing, or maybe you can have it the whole class writing, and then you write on board. You take the feedback from it, and then you write on board. So we call it joint construction. After that, they will do some independent construction. After you write on board, they will follow the steps you did together, and then they will do their own writing, and it's independent. Okay, so they will use this one, the brainstorming, the identifying, the draft, and all that stuff. So in that phase, the independent construction, they can start using this strategy thing. And then the last part, which is the most important phase in the genre approach, is comparing with the model. When you compare with the model, it means that you will compare the writing to the piece of writing that you brought them in class to have. And that's the genre approach. Okay. So let's move on. And this is the last slide. Now, this is for teachers in the first place, because I like to check if the teachers themselves are aware of the errors students make in writing. So I have some examples for you here, and I would love if you look through them and then write in the chat box, what errors do you have? Whatever comes to your mind. I'll give you like 3 minutes again to go through the sentences here, and then you can write down in the chat box what errors you have seen. Well, I'm sorry, my cat is trying to interrupt me. Sorry. Okay, what's wrong with the 4? Okay. Yeah, that's what I want you to do. Write down the name of the error, punctuation, spelling, and so on. Okay. I can see that you're identifying. Okay. Capitalization, grammar, wrong word. Well, Lear, the German grammar is incomparable to the English one. Huge difference. Okay. Anything else? 1 minute to go. Okay. I'm sorry. My cat is insisting to come across. Okay. Yeah. Register. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Okay, number 5, grammar. Yes. Okay. So let's see. So we have like 10 sentences. Let's see the name of the errors that we have. So as somebody said in the first one, therefore, we have a punctuation problem here. And then the second one, somebody said, maybe somebody here said, be excellent, it's run. So this is what we call sentence fragment, okay? And number 3, capitalization, and it's part of punctuation as well. And then number 4, nobody found out about number 4. It's what we call faulty parallelism. This is when you have Alia had to iron, do the washing, and going shopping. Going shopping here is wrong. It should be go, okay? And then number 5, grammar, but it has a name which is called subject-verb agreement. This is a very common error in writing, and you always find it in the third person, the S in the third person, the present simple. It's very common. Students know exactly, yeah, exactly knows. And then number 6, somebody said comma, yeah, but it has a name here. It's called run-on sentence. And then the wordiness, nobody noticed it. Wordiness means too much talking, redundancy, a lot of things where I can summarize it in a better way or rephrase it in a better way. And then number 8, we have the spelling. Yeah, and then as Lear said, it's a register issue here. So, dear Professor Brown, I wanted to know if you're free to meet up in the students' cafeteria this afternoon. You cannot talk to your professor that way. And then the last one, which is very common as well, but maybe you didn't pay attention to, which is the faulty reference. This is when you use pronouns and they are very ambiguous. You don't know where they are referring to or whom they're referring to. And this very common in elementary students. They always have this problem. And then you ask them, okay, what are you talking about here? Who's that referring to? They say, we don't know. Okay, so let's see the corrections. Here. So therefore here, it has to have a semicolon before it and then a comma after it. And then here in that one, wording that the golden cup would be stolen, you should finish the sentence. So they hid it in a safe place. And then the capitalization, okay. My cousin Tom sent a lovely picture from London. And then Alia had to iron, do the washing, and go shopping before her parents arrived. And then finally, number 5, which is the subject-verb agreements. Neither my dad nor my brother knows how to cook. I ordered the cheeseburger for lunch. And then this is a run-on sentence. It should have a semicolon here. Life's too short for counting calories. This one, the wordiness thing, you don't need to write it in that way. You don't have to say it was George Washington. No, you can simply say, George Washington once said, happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected. Okay, and then that spelling one, it's very unnoticeable. Perseverance, the E. And then for the register thing, you should talk to your professor in a formal language. You can say, I want to meet you. You can't say that to your professor. You should say, I would like to know if you have free time to meet you in your office. And then the last one is the witness called the television station, but the reporters didn't answer. This is how you actually avoid the problem of ambiguity when it comes to pronouns. And with my presentation, thank you so much for listening. These are some resources for helping you. Well, actually, they were very helpful. I read some articles and some points here. This one, the archive.nup.org, might be difficult to open, but try, okay? And then these are my contact numbers. So if you need to ask about anything or check for any questions, okay, thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'm willing to receive them.
Thank you, Asma. If you could quit sharing screens, and I'd like to come on and sort of review. So if you could quit sharing screens now.
Would you please repeat what do you want? I'm sorry.
Could you stop sharing screens?
Ah, yeah, okay. Hold on.
There we go. That was very interesting about, your approach to writing. And definitely I think teachers do need to know, if they're going to be teaching writing, that they need to know what causes bad writing too, not
Yeah.
just what can we do to because if we know what causes bad writing or poor writing, then we know we can create some strategies to direct them in the guide them in the direction of good writing. So
Yeah.
thank you for pointing that out. That was very interesting. And I'm sure, Mohammed, that we're going to have this video on YouTube so you can look at those suggestions that Asma made about what really, causes poor writing. Because again, one more time, if we know what causes poor writing, we as teachers can create some strategies for that. You gave us that exercise of what we could do in certain situations. You gave us 4 situations. That was also very interesting because we do, as teachers, have to think about different scenarios and problems that could happen in the classroom when, we're dealing with writing and the skill of writing. I think that's really important. So again, everybody will get a copy of this when they see that in the different scenarios that you talked about. I really liked what you talked about the strategy approach, the product approach, and the genre approach. Now, I did place a workflow framework that I wrote for the strategy approach, or it could be used for the product approach as well. We do have to teach students how to work with frameworks and systems and workflows. But, that's really for your, already your B1 direction, writer. But we got A1 and A2, lower levels. That might be a little bit difficult to teach them that framework. I did place in the chat box. Some great resources from the New York Times about some writing prompts, and probably one of the most famous writing prompts books that you can get on the internet, which is free, is 501 Writing Prompts. It's in the chat box, but I will be writing an article about this. So on my social media page about everything you talked about and some ideas, to really promote or lead our learners to good writing. I'd like to say that, if we're going to be teaching our learners about writing, we do need to know that writing is very well connected and highly connected. It's scientifically proven to reading. So, we gotta always connect reading to writing. There is no such thing as just teaching writing. I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that teachers make when they start teaching writing, that students need models.
Yeah, and that's why I actually provided the thing called mentor text, because it's really, really guiding, or you can say insightful into writing using mentor text.
Yeah, you use the term mentor text, but let us not forget that text come also in the form of videos. And like you said, listening.
Listening, yeah, sure.
Yeah, so, we need different kinds of, when we onboard students to a new topic that we want them to write about, it's definitely that we should make sure that our warm-up sessions have something to do with what's called the multimodality approach. In other words, let's them see a video about the topic where they start developing ideas and understanding it, maybe, at the same time taking notes, using a mind map or something to get ideas about the topic. Then, because they need a visual, a good video is, good. And sometimes, and this is my personal belief, there's nothing wrong with first showing them a short video in their mother language if they are low-level learners. Because
yes, exactly, sure.
They do need that, the low-level learners. But then we show them something in English, a video, then we can do maybe a reading exercise where again we reinforce the vocabulary and we hide the grammar. We sort of hide the grammar.
Yeah, sure. But it's okay if it's not a problem actually teaching some grammar things as you know, there are some books actually entitled grammar writing, and they have a purpose. They are not for or solely for teaching grammar. They are for another purpose. They are for teaching grammar for writing.
Exactly.
So,
and that's different.
yeah,
That's a
yeah.
different kind of grammar teaching. And that's why I like to hide it first and then see what happens. And then if I see that they're doing it okay, then I don't say anything because, why should I teach it if they're doing it correctly? I just give them good feedback on that because they need feedback along the way. And we scaffold all of that. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I believe writing is a big ocean, and actually one single session is never enough to give insights into how to handle it.
No.
So yeah, but it's of my huge passion and interest to always write and
Oh,
talk about writing.
I love doing writing. I love it. But there's a lot of things that we have to lead our learners to before they can become good writers. And they definitely had to learn with genre. They have to learn, and there's a word you didn't use, but I need to bring that up. And that is, there's two terms there, decoding. They really need to learn to decode. In other words, pronunciation, a little bit of phonetics, and we don't have to get into the theory of that. And that's why reading aloud and then modeling, hearing, how does that word sound? How does that word look? What is that word and that vocabulary building that comes with decoding, so that they already know all of that and brainstormed it and talked about it before they actually start to write and create a draft. Because if we just tell them to write and they don't have a model, this could frustrate them very much. Yeah. So we got to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said in the instructions in the session, that teachers should be aware the level of the students and the challenges that they have and what approach exactly they're going to use depending on the students' level.
Mm-hmm. For my low-level learners, Asma, I like to use dictogloss because I read, something to them sentence by sentence and they write it down. And they're writing because I'm getting them to write, by listening. Or I could just put on a little video and play it step by step so they start taking notes and they're writing the words that I want them to write. They're writing the grammar that I want them to write. And that's how I slowly onboard them without ever telling them that that's what I'm doing. I'm just, this is going to just be our warm-up text. So I think that you can do decoding and language recognition, vocabulary building by good modeling in warm-up exercises. Again, there's a lot of good resources for you there in the chat box, and some terms for you to Google will be a multimodality approach to writing. What Asma said, mentor text, modeling for writing, language recognition, decoding exercises and decoding in writing, dictogloss, okay? And how important, another thing is show and tell. That's also a good way to lead into writing. And I put a mind map template in there. If you want to brainstorm with your students before the writing, just Google mind map templates and you'll get a lot of great worksheets that you can use. Asma, those writing graphic organizers that you put in there, those are fantastic. I like them. Those are good. And so look at those again, and because those would also, graphic organizers are really great for writing. Mo, if we can get you back on, do we have any questions that we want to deal with?
Okay. That was a wonderful discussion. But I think that we don't have any questions, but the people here are posting some wonderful comments here. Amazing. I myself like the session so much. The content is organized. She knew what she's talking about. She was trying to give practical ideas and activities. That's what I really like. It's not about giving some terminology the names of some activities. No, how to do them, how to help the learners, and how these activities might help the learners to become better at writing. So she talked about how to make the students better writers, and also the teachers better at teaching writing, which is very good and impressive, of course. So we have a question here right now from Marwa. She's asking about how to deal with large classes in writing.
Asma, how do we deal with large classes?
Well, actually, yeah, well, this is everybody's problem. Okay, so I mentioned in the suggested solutions that you could divide the class into smaller groups, and then you could have the high achievers, in other words, in each group, so that they could be like the lead or a guide student. And then you could divide the steps into, or the session into small sections. Like the first section, you would have the first part like brainstorming or collecting ideas, the input part, and then you start having the first phase. And then you check where students go. And then go on, move to the second phase, which is the developing these ideas and writing them in the first phase, or the first draft, I'm sorry. And then after that, you stop and check the writing and see what they have done, and then give the feedback, and you can do some corrections, and then begin the third phase, which is the final one. And then after that, you will check either the second day as homework, or maybe you can do the same thing in the session if the time allows you to do that. So this is one way to handle the big number. And also using the codes that I told you about, the correction codes, is important because that will facilitate correcting the student's mistake. So if you have them on board and you can simply write down on each error, for instance, SP, T, or maybe whatsoever the mistake they have, and then after that, they can do the correction themselves. So that will minimize the time spent in class. Okay?
So yeah, self-correction is really important.
Yes, exactly.
I would like to say that, collaborative learning in small groups is really powerful for writing. So definitely, I totally agree with you. Break them up into groups and get your strong learners, and you know who they are. We know as teachers who our strong students are and who our weak students are, and we got to get the strong students to kind of help us out, and use their strengths to help the weaker students to improve, because we have to build everybody's self-confidence in the classroom. I think that's important. And Mo, do we have another question? Anything else?
Yeah, sure. We have another question here, which is, the question is from Ahmed Amin, and he's saying, may you give some details about the agility role writing specifically, as it was mentioned from your side. I've heard it from your side.
So what do you mean by agility role writing? Would you please elaborate?
He said high agility to learn allows students to make the most of the learning experience, developing the capacity to figure things out quickly. Better enables the students to find innovative
so I got it right, but
solutions
I was just making, okay.
Yeah, to difficult problems and deal with challenging situations. It is
Well,
my search output. Is it my search output? Is it in the same direction?
Well, I'm trying to find out. Okay, high agility allows students to make.
Well, agility is a skill, and so
yeah, I know. I know the meaning.
I think he's referring to the development of writing agility. Yeah, and somebody asked the question right at the beginning: what's the difference between a teacher and a trainer? But we realized that actually when you're teaching writing, it's a skill. And usually you got to do some teaching, but you also have to do some training because you're teaching a skill. And that's important because that's actually training. And so there's a difference between teaching writing and training writing. And training writing means giving the students as many possibilities that you have in the classroom to encourage the skill, to help them to develop the skill, help them to develop themselves and their self-confidence in writing. So they've got to have every opportunity. And I have to say that writing, this is another misconception of writing, is that everybody thinks that writing is about just writing an essay connected to a genre, but that's wrong. There's different types of writing. Note-taking is writing, and dictogloss is connecting note-taking to listening. So there's no such thing as really teaching writing in and of itself as a skill. You got to have other skills as well to help to develop your writing skills. And that is listening, reading, speaking, all those things that are going to help to develop writing. Because when you really look at no matter what culture you come from, who are the people that we as citizens are part of a society, who do we really look to as some of the most achieved people or successful people in our society, our culture? It's usually writers. We look to our writers. They tell us about our culture. They tell us about our history. So, writing is important. You're definitely going to need writing if you want to be successful in business. So writing is a very, very important skill. Again, I love teaching writing. But
I would like to just add one comment to Ahmed, because he was writing in the comments. One word that actually I like to say or comment on, when he said developing the capacity to figure things out quickly. Well, as you said, writing is a huge skill and it takes time. And I believe it's very accumulative. So if I say to figure things out quickly, would be not relevant to what we do in writing. It could work in other things. Okay, speaking about high ability learning and all that stuff, it might not work that much with writing in the sense of figuring out mistakes or figuring out approaches, figuring out how to develop your ideas. So it needs time and patience. But as I said, modeling or providing mentor texts would actually help figure out where to develop, when to develop, and how to develop the writing. And it could be part of the agility thing you're talking about here, Ahmed, if I answered your question, kind of.
And I'd like to say that what I see in the chat box is actually maybe a general definition of a basic task-based learning, because it's about problem solving, and also a short definition of project-based learning. I can see that there are some similarities to what he wrote in the chat box. And if we really approach writing, first of all, by just task-based learning, little by little, we can lead them to good project-based learning and writing longer text as end products that we can assess. Asma, you talked about feedback and assessment. And I'd like to ask you, what are your suggestions that you have about, giving feedback to students on their writing? How often should we be doing that as teachers?
Okay, this is also a huge thing, because sometimes teacher would actually give feedback on each and every single mistake, and that's not corrected. I always refer to teachers, when you give feedback on writing, choose one error per session. Today, you're going to talk about subject-verb agreement. So avoid giving feedback on any other errors. They're not in your scope this session. So in this session only, subject-verb agreement. Maybe next session could be talking about coherence or cohesion or word choice. Maybe the following session is about register. So if they have any grammatical mistakes, you should not actually look at all. So this is one thing of giving feedback. Not every mistake or every error should be corrected, because again, it would turn them off and it would hinder them from writing.
Definitely.
The second thing is that I also like the peer feedback, which is very encouraging sometimes if they finish the writing and you can hang them on walls so that the students can like rate students writing. That would also be very encouraging for students to write. And I also like the code thing, and I believe that teachers should print it either in class or in their notebooks so that they have it for the feedback purposes.
Definitely.
Okay.
I encourage my low-level learners all the way to B, once I get them to B2, that's different. But definitely my A2 and B1 learners, they need to keep a writing journal. And I have them keep a separate book just for their writing journal. And sometimes I'll just sit with them by themselves in the room and, they just come to my desk and I'll tell them, come over here and let's talk. And then they open up their writing journal and we start looking through it. And, I'll give them some feedback on that. So that there's a personal relationship and, I'm building a different kind of dynamics with the students because they do need personal feedback as well.
Yeah, sure.
But
yeah.
I agree with you, Asma, that we should direct our feedback. If we see that a lot of people are making register mistakes, then maybe we should do the feedback on that, or we should do maybe because maybe everybody's making the same grammar mistake, then maybe we need to teach that grammar component, that part of grammar. I always believe in let grammar happen, and then when it's not happening, then we teach it. I don't teach grammar first because I think, if you do good modeling, you don't really need to really.
Yeah.
And, Asma, I really agree with you on that one. Showcase their writing, put it on the wall, create some posters in the room of good
maybe
writing.
publish them if they have school magazine or
let them do a little newspaper or something, have a contest, in the school about a certain topic. We used to do that at school all the time, and I used to love writing in the 5th class and the 6th class for the, writing contest. And I did win 2nd place, I have to say, when I was in the 5th class. And that made me, that motivated me to want to learn, more and do more writing. Asma, I would like to thank you very much on the part of Educast for coming on, taking your time, sharing your knowledge and information with us today. I want to thank everyone for coming today, and I wish you all, still we have a couple of days more of Ramadan, okay? So I want to wish you all a great Ramadan. This was our last event of the Ramadan Nights events from Educast. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for joining us. And there's been a lot of people who have faithfully come every single day. So again, I want to wish you all a good night. And you'll be hearing from Educast and Syntax Solutions very soon about our next little project that we have on teacher training, C1 English for teachers. So keep in contact with us with Educast, where we will be posting that on social media. Again, good night, everybody. Good night, Asma. Thank you one more time.
Nice.